Convergence by Zoraida Cordova, the first adult novel in Phase 2 of the High Republic, will be out in 2 weeks. I've read it, and today I'll be sharing my spoiler-free thoughts on the book. My first reaction is that it's probably my least favorite of the adult novels in the High Republic. I've said before that I am all into this era of storytelling, and that remains true. I enjoyed Convergence, it just didn't grab me or leave me with an overwhelming oh my god feeling the same way that Light of the Jedi or The Rising Storm did. I've also said many times before that I prefer my Star Wars books to be a little more expansive. More characters and more planets, lots of jumping around between the various storylines until they all connect, or converge. Convergence is more limited in its scope, focusing on 4 main characters in one system. And that system is cool. We learned a little bit about the planets Arono and Irem in Phase 1. Basically, they're 2 planets that share a moon, and they just hate each other's guts. The space between the worlds is littered with destruction and bodies. They have a long history of war, and at this point in the story, they've been fighting again for 5 years, to the point where it's becoming a problem for the surrounding areas of space, so the Republic and the Jedi arrive to try to mediate a peace between them. Gela Zatai is our main Jedi character. She is dealing with some mysterious trauma from a previous mission in the frontier of the galaxy, and she is struggling with the concept of home throughout the book. She has to learn about the people of each planet and come to understand how their identities are firmly rooted in where they were born. But Jedi don't have one place to call home. The temple on Coruscant is the closest they have, but especially at this point in the timeline, they don't spend much time there. I liked Gela's journey to learn what home means for her, and that she can find it outside of a physical place. The Prince of Irem and the Princess of Arono are 2 more main characters. I really enjoyed their story of trying to find common ground and resolution instead of continuing the cycles of hate. They didn't choose this so-called forever war, their parents did, and their parents likely chose to fight instead of communicate because that's what their ancestors did. It was easy to root for them as they struggled to break free of generational violence, and having an intense conflict set between just 2 planets is a good way to have a very war-focused story during an era of overall galactic peace. The final main character is my favorite of the bunch, Axel Greylark. He is the troublemaking son of one of the chancellors. That's right, one of the 2 chancellors of the Republic, and we'll talk about them more in a minute. But Axel is spoiled and chaotic and selfish, and is forced by his mother to do some good alongside Gela and the 2 heirs of Irem and Arono. In exchange, she will unlock his inheritance. He is one of those characters I would hate to be around in real life, but he is a lot of fun to read about. I enjoyed his chapters the most, and quickly found myself hoping for him to become a better person by helping others find peace. While they're not as prominent in the story, the 2 chancellors are interesting. They're similar to the planets Arono and Irem in some ways. They are undeniably connected, and yet there is some tension between them. It's not obviously visible the way the Forever War is presented, but it's interesting that during this supposed golden age of the Republic, we're still seeing political conflict between the 2 leaders bubbling just under the surface. And of course, we have to talk about the villains, who continue to be the Path of the Open Hand. The mother, who we first met in Path of Deceit, is a lesser presence this time around, but she's there. She is treated similarly to Darth Sidious, in the shadows, pulling some strings. She is shown to be far more nefarious than she acted in Path of Deceit, and I liked it. I liked a lot about Convergence. The story we are given is perfectly enjoyable, has a lot of strong themes, and was well written by Cordova. I got chills several times. I will say I think the final act was a little much. There were a lot of individual events happening, and I found it a little hard to keep up or didn't fully grasp why something was important, but I think my main criticism stems from how Phase 2 of the High Republic is structured. Phase 2 takes us 150 years into the past before Phase 1, so I was kind of expecting some huge galactic event to take place to introduce us to this time period. One of my favorite aspects about the High Republic is the fact that it has room in the timeline to tell really big, galaxy-shaking stories. These aren't books about known characters telling us what happened in between the most important moments of their lives, which we saw in the movies. These books are the most important moments. Convergence felt like an important moment for 2 specific planets and not the entire galaxy. Now that I've read the first 3 books of Phase 2, I would say as a whole it feels a little bit smaller, but I have to admit that does make sense. I think Phases 1 and 3 will be about why the High Republic era came to an end. Phase 2 should be more peaceful while we're in the middle of the Golden Age. In addition, one of the final lines of the final stories in Phase 1 read, "To forge our path to the future, guided by the secrets of the past we will be." I think Phase 2 is deliberately going to be a slower, more peaceful chunk of the story. We completely shifted gears from Phase 1 to spend time unraveling some mysteries. If you look at all 3 Phase 2 books and their sequels so far, I think they are all being set up as 2-part stories. Path of Deceit and Path of Vengeance, Quest for the Hidden City and Quest for Planet X, Convergence and Cataclysm. The titles and even the cover art are very closely linked. I think we're getting a lot of setup now in the Wave 1 stories, and then the second and final wave will be all the payoff. I can already see how lines will be drawn from Path of Deceit or Quest for the Hidden City into Wave 2, but I'm struggling to do that with Convergence. I just don't know how this book moves along the larger story yet. Again, I think all will become clear when we read Cataclysm. Looking at the title of the book, Convergence, I think it's referring to the characters and the events that bring them all together, and then Cataclysm probably refers to something huge and violent that will rip them all apart. I just need to be patient, and the High Republic has earned my patience. So, to sum things up, Convergence is a smaller story that is perfectly enjoyable. I liked Zoraida Cordova's writing, I really liked the characters, and I look forward to seeing more of them in Cataclysm. I was just expecting a bigger story that would shed more light on Phase 1, but when Phase 2 is complete, I think I'll look back at this novel and it'll all click for me. If you've been keeping up with and enjoying the High Republic, of course I would recommend reading Convergence. Even if I can't fully see it right now, I think it will be an important piece of the High Republic puzzle when all is said and done. If you have yet to try the High Republic and are interested, I would still recommend starting at the beginning with Light of the Jedi. But that's all I have to say for now. If you want to read Convergence for yourself, you can pick up the audiobook for free on Audible. Just click on the link in the description or visit www.audibletrial.com/Star Wars Explained. You can pre-order the audiobook right now, and the production value on all the Star Wars books is very high with sound effects and music. It's like listening to a movie. Signing up for an Audible trial will get you a credit for 1 free book, and you can use it on Convergence, or the other High Republic books, or just about any Star Wars book you can think of. Or get any book you want. The point is, you get a free book, and you'll be supporting the channel when you do. But that's it for today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for all our High Republic coverage, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and consider checking out our Patreon page, where we'll be holding a book club discussion for this book in a couple weeks. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.